Eric, great to see you again. Thanks for coming in to WHRO to talk about finding peace at Potsdam. So this sounds like more than just a concert.
This is more than just a concert, yes.
Tell me about it. What was the inspiration for this project?
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to talk about this project because it is truly something that I feel in my heart and want to present to friends and the community. So this is the story. I mostly read nonfiction, and I read the David McCullough book about President Harry S. Truman, and I got pretty obsessed with this human as a human, because, boy, was he a quite human president that we had, but also particularly this time period. So, and this is, I'm sure everyone knows this, but FDR was elected to his fourth term and died about 2 months into that fourth term. Harry Truman, who was never supposed to be vice president, let alone president, took over and became the president. That's 1945, and the war is ending, but there's so many things that are about to happen. And in about 4 months, Truman is supposed to go to Potsdam and negotiate the peace and the future of our world with Stalin and Churchill, two humans that he's never been in the same room with and doesn't know anything about. Harry Truman and FDR had been together twice in the 2 months, and they hadn't even had a private conference. They had just seen each other during these 2 months. I guess FDR either thought he would never pass or didn't think he was sick or didn't need to tell his vice president anything about negotiations. So all of a sudden, Truman has to jump into the most uphill battle for himself, just learning what is going to happen in this world war. So 4 months later, he goes to Potsdam. And he's sitting around the table with these heads of state trying to figure things out. He has this great quote that, Churchill, he just talks all day long, but says absolutely nothing, and I don't understand him. He's writing this back to his wife in the States. And he said, and Stalin, well, he only grunts, but I know everything that he's saying. I understand it completely. Now, the thing that really captured me is when Truman was in Potsdam, he brought sheet music with him. He was a pianist, an amateur pianist. You could actually see him on YouTube playing a little bit in the White House. And he loved playing. He was never great. But he brought music because he just needed it with him. It was like a pastime of some sort. And he realized at some point during this 3-week conference that nothing was happening. Nothing was working. Churchill was wasting time talking. Stalin showed no emotion, no connection with anything. And so he said, okay, I'm gonna put on a concert. And he flew in 2 musicians, a sergeant and a private who were stationed in Paris at the time. Stuart Kanan was the violinist and Eugene List was the pianist. Eugene List was quite a well-known pianist at the time. And they carried this 9-foot piano onto the veranda after a day of meeting, and they put on a concert. And they played some music that was so powerful at that time. They played the music of Chrysler, they played the music of Chopin, and supposedly the only time that Stalin showed any emotion in this moment of 3 weeks of conference was when the pianist sort of on a whim just played a little Tchaikovsky piano concerto, and Stalin jumps up and says Nostrovia, and cheers all the musicians, and all of a sudden he has like an outburst, and maybe there's a breakthrough. The idea that music could possibly play a role in connecting people is what really made me think this is something so special. Also, the 2 musicians that were flown in from Paris to Potsdam, both Jewish musicians, and they did play Chrysler, a Jewish composer. And there's something incredibly powerful about that in the summer of 1945. I should say very, very interestingly, Truman at that time, 1945, American officials didn't really fly the president. It was more or less, we keep him on the ground, we train. So Truman took a train from D.C. to Norfolk and sailed to Belgium, got off the boat and went to Potsdam. And on the return, he insisted, he's like, I'm not sailing from Belgium. Have the boat pick me up in England. They flew to England, and then they came back through Norfolk. And it was just, oh, gosh, this is us. It happened here. We have to experience this. So at the end of the Potsdam Conference, after Truman and Stalin and Churchill had been together, and they did actually get some good work done about being able to help countries rebuild and making sure that Germany wasn't taxed with the hugest burden like they were in World War I, which, of course, helped lead to World War II because they were strangled financially. Truman flew to England and once again set sail for Norfolk, Virginia. And on that journey home, he had given the okay for both bombs to be dropped in Japan. And it was on that trip home while he was at sea where he had his piano, where he played music, where he listened to music, that both bombs dropped in Japan. And it really made for a moment in history which was destined to sort of set the future of this world. And I just can't think of a more powerful time where music played an integral role. So we're putting on a play. After reading this book and listening to this music, I got so inspired that I commissioned this incredible writer, Harley Elias, to write a play about this time. It's both whimsical and fun, but incredibly serious. And the orchestra will be playing the incidental music, and there'll be a little song, but mostly it's a play about this time period.
Okay. So will a narrator or actors will be on the stage with the orchestra?
Yeah, we have 3 actors, and they will be interacting with musicians, but also really playing the roles of the people of that time. I'll tell you a little bit of a hint, just a little bit of comic relief, which is that, as noted before, Stalin was said to mostly only grunt, and there might be one musician on stage who grunts as Stalin throughout the play.
And the Virginia Symphony Chorus is performing as well.
Yes.
So will they be sort of doing some narration, or how does that work?
Exactly. And the nice thing about this program is because it's sort of one of the concerts that the Virginia Symphony is using to express this idea of what America is during this important year for the history of America. On the first half of the concert, we'll play some of the great American music, some Copland, some Bernstein. The chorus will be involved. And yes, the chorus will be involved as well in a very special way at the end of this play.
Okay, so first half, Copland, Bernstein, and then the second half is this Potsdam play. So the music is made up of those pieces that were performed at the concert there?
Exactly. Yeah, we're in some ways part of the sort of the golden section of this play is a live performance of what would have happened in Potsdam. We have sort of enlarged it to feature the entire orchestra in what might have been considered, oh, well, if it wasn't wartime, maybe the soloists would have had a full orchestra behind them.
So Tchaikovsky, Chrysler. Any other hints about what's in there? Chopin
is definitely played in there. Chopin was definitely one of Truman's most favorite composers, as well as Beethoven and Mozart. I mean, he really loved playing the piano at a time when, of course, recordings were coming, and this is the 40s, this is the 30s, so he had an extensive record collection. But when he was growing up, he didn't have a record player, so the entertainment was, hey, I'll play some music, and I think he carried that into his existence as a human throughout his life.
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah.
So this is, of course, co-presented with the Virginia Arts Festival and Virginia Symphony, and we should also mention it's made possible through the Susan Good Performance Fund as well, which every year you get to do one of these big projects as part of that, correct?
Yes. Well, Susan Good and the foundation and the Good family challenges the symphony and the Arts Festival and more or less says, what could you not do without a collaboration? What could you not do that we could help make possible in this community that wouldn't be possible? And this is exactly that. No way could we have done all of this huge undertaking of more or less putting on a play without them. And what an exciting and huge opportunity for our community to be able to have this premiere. And I'd say the takeaway feels very human and very natural. I had the luck recently to go in Kansas City to the Truman Library. And there was something that I think really points out the type of human Truman was. When he passed, his office was at the library, and they more or less have maintained his office exactly how it was. I think they clean it, but they put everything back. But one thing they took out of his top desk drawer was a Purple Heart that a father had written to him. A father of a soldier who had passed in the Korean War had sent him his child's Purple Heart in a letter that was incredibly painful. It was more or less saying, well, you might as well have this heart because you took my child, and I wish the same horror upon you. And Truman kept that letter and that Purple Heart in his desk for 20 years. No one knew about it. It was something that he kept to himself, but he had it every time he opened that desk drawer. He saw it. And I think that's something that we could all think about, the recognition of this is something I did or someone believes I did. What could I have done better? And I think that really shows the type of human Harry Truman was. He made mistakes, of course. And then he also was able to think, what was it that I could have done, or how could I be better next? And I think that's such a beautiful thing. And I think that directly ties to music. The musician who comes on stage and walks off stage and doesn't think that there's betterment to be made, that there isn't improvement, that there isn't acknowledgement of, oh, there's another way. That's the most beautiful thing about being a musician. And somehow that really translates from Harry Truman, the president, the human, the musician. I should say the president, the human, the amateur musician, because that's what he would, of course, see as like, oh, I'm not a musician, and the performer.
That was Virginia Symphony Music Director Eric Jacobsen talking about Finding Peace at Potsdam, a special production co-presented by the Virginia Symphony and Virginia Arts Festival, with performances coming up Friday evening in Norfolk and Saturday evening in Newport News. You can find all the details at vafest.org.